She appeared without warning, a little girl with eyes far too serious for someone so young,
Can I sit, honey?
sliding into
Of
the
course,
seat
honey.
across
Come on
from me
in.
like we'd been friends forever.
It's okay, you're safe
And in
with
that
me.
single moment, everything in my world was about to shatter and rebuild itself into something I never imagined possible. Before we dive into this incredible true story, I'd love it if you could hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end. Also,
And the little
drop a
rabbit
comment
hopped
letting me know
all
what
the way
city you're
home,
watching from.
knowing
I want to
she
see
was
just how far
finally
this
safe.
story travels across the world. The autumn sun filtered through the windows of the Manhattan coffee shop where I sat that Tuesday afternoon, grading papers and sipping my third latte of the day. At 32, my life had become predictable in the way that feels safe but secretly hollow, teaching elementary school, going home to an empty Queens apartment, repeating the cycle, safe, ordinary, lonely. If I was being honest with myself. "You look nice," the child announced, studying me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "And safe. Are you safe?" I blinked, looking around the crowded cafe for a parent, a guardian, anyone who might be frantically searching for this little girl. She couldn't have been more than 7, with dark curls framing a face that carried a weight no child should bear. "I'm sorry, sweetie, are you lost? Should we find your mom or dad?" "I'm not lost." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I'm hiding." She pulled out a book on Greek mythology far too advanced for her age and opened it like a shield. "Can I sit here? Just for a little while? They won't look for me here if I'm with someone." Every logical bone in my body screamed to find an adult, to call security, to not get involved. But something in her eyes, that desperate, terrified bravery, made me pause. "What are you hiding from?" I whispered back. "The bad men. They're always watching, always following. Papa says they're for protection, but I don't want protection." Her voice cracked slightly. "I just want to be normal. Please. I'll just read. I won't bother you. And God help me." I nodded. For 20 minutes, we sat in companionable silence. She read intently, occasionally making notes in a small notebook, while I pretended to focus on my papers. The cafe buzzed around us, the hiss of the espresso machine, conversations blending into white noise, the clink of cups on saucers. Normal, safe. Then I saw them. 2 large men in dark suits, moving through the cafe with military precision, scanning every face with professional intensity. Security. Or worse. The girl had noticed too. She'd gone completely still, her book held up like it could somehow make her invisible. "Are those the men?" I breathed. She nodded, and I saw it then, pure fear breaking through her brave facade. In that split second, I made a choice that would detonate my entire existence. I reached across the table, took her small hand in mine, and smiled like we'd been together all morning. "There you are, sweetheart. I was wondering where you'd gone." Loud enough for the approaching men to hear. "Did you get your book from the car?" The girl's eyes widened, but she understood immediately. "Yes, Aunt Claire. Sorry it took so long." The men reached our table, and up close, they were even more intimidating. Professional security. Clearly expensive, definitely armed. One of them fixed his cold gaze on me. "Excuse me, miss. Have you seen a young girl, about 7? Dark hair." "You mean my niece?" I gestured to the child, who was now gripping my hand like a lifeline. "Is something wrong?" They exchanged glances. One spoke quietly into a radio. "We have her. She's with an aunt at the coffee shop on 5th and 23rd. A woman's voice crackled back, but I couldn't make out the words. The man listened, then looked at me with new assessment. "Miss, we need to verify your identity. The girl's father is very protective." "Of course. I'm Claire Morrison." The lie slid out smoothly, years of teacher voice making it sound natural. "Would you like to see my ID?" I had no idea why I was doing this, lying to armed security for a child I'd met 20 minutes ago. But something about her quiet desperation, her need to feel normal even for just an afternoon, made me commit completely. The man photographed my driver's license with his phone, sent it somewhere. We waited in tense silence, me pretending calm, the girl squeezing my hand hard enough to hurt, the security team ready to act if anything seemed suspicious. "The father's on his way," the security man finally said, returning my ID. He wants to speak with you personally. My stomach dropped, but I kept my smile bright. Of course. We'll wait here. After the security backed off, not leaving, just giving us space, the girl leaned close. Why did you help me? Because you looked like you needed it, I whispered back. And because I remember what it's like to feel trapped, to want just a few minutes of normal. I'm Isabella. Everyone calls me Bella. She bit her lip. You're going to get in trouble. Papa doesn't like strangers near me. He's going to be really angry. Then we'll deal with that when he gets here. For now, tell me about your book. For the next 10 minutes, Bella told me about Greek myths, with the enthusiasm of a child who'd finally found someone to listen. She was brilliant, articulate, clearly well-educated, but also clearly starved for normal human connection. Then the coffee shop went quiet. Not completely silent, but that subtle shift when someone important enters a room and people instinctively respond. I looked up to see a man walking toward us, and I understood immediately why security was necessary. He was tall and powerfully built, moving through the café with the confidence of someone used to commanding space. Dark hair, sharp features, olive skin, and an aura of controlled danger that made people step aside without being asked. Black dress shirt with sleeves rolled up, revealing muscular forearms covered in intricate tattoos, expensive watch, heavy rings, and dark eyes currently fixed on me with an intensity that made my heart hammer against my ribs. This was not a man you lied to. This was not a man you crossed, and I had just claimed to be his sister. Papa! Bella jumped up, running to him. He caught her easily, lifting her like she weighed nothing, his entire demeanor softening as he held his daughter. They spoke in rapid Italian, Bella explaining something while he listened with a patience that contradicted his dangerous appearance. Then his eyes found mine again, and the softness vanished. He set Bella down and approached my table, his security team materializing from wherever they'd been lurking. Up close, he was even more intimidating, not just physically imposing, but radiating a controlled danger that suggested violence was always an option, always close to the surface. Claire Morrison, he said, my fake name sounding like an accusation. My daughter's aunt. Interesting. Considering I don't have a sister, I can explain. You lied to my security, claimed to be family, spent 30 minutes alone with my daughter. His voice was soft, controlled, more terrifying than if he'd been shouting. Give me one reason I shouldn't have you arrested for attempted kidnapping. Because she asked me to. I stood, refusing to be intimidated despite every instinct screaming at me to run. She sat down at my table, said she was hiding from the bad men who always watch her, and asked if she could just read her book in peace. So I let her. When your security came looking, I lied to give her a few more minutes of feeling normal. That's it. No kidnapping, no agenda, just a child who wanted to feel like a regular kid for half an hour. He stared at me for a long moment, processing this. Then he looked at Bella, who nodded confirmation. She was nice, Papa. She let me read. She asked about my book. She didn't try to take pictures or ask weird questions about you or anything. She just let me be normal. Bella tugged on his hand. Please don't be angry at her. She was helping. Helping you run away from your security? Helping you put yourself in danger? But his tone with Bella was gentle, not angry. He crouched to her level. Bella, those men aren't there to watch you. They're there to keep you safe. You know why we need security. I know, Papa. But I just wanted to be normal for a little while. Just read my book without men in suits standing 3 feet away. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm tired of being protected all the time. Something painful flickered across his face. He pulled her into a hug, murmuring something in Italian that made her nod against his shoulder. Then he stood, facing me again. Your real name. And don't lie this time. Naomi Hayes. I'm a teacher at an elementary school just a few blocks from here. I pulled out my actual ID, showing him. I really am sorry for lying to your security. She looked so desperate for a moment of peace. I couldn't ignore that. He studied my ID, my face, making calculations I couldn't follow. You're a teacher. Yes. and you saw a strange child in distress, and your instinct was to help, even knowing you'd have to lie to armed security. I saw a scared little girl who needed someone to be kind to her. What kind of teacher would I be if I turned her away? Something shifted in his expression, not softening exactly, but reassessing. You have no idea who I am, do you? I know you're someone who needs security. I know your daughter is terrified of the protection you provide. Beyond that, I shook my head. Does it matter? It might. He gestured to the chair I'd been sitting in. Please, sit. Over the next hour, as the coffee shop emptied and refilled around us, I learned who Dante Russo was. Not everything. He was careful, measured, but enough to understand the danger I'd walked into. His family business. The reason Bella needed constant security. The isolated life they led because of choices he'd made long before she was born. I understand. If you want to forget this ever happened, he said finally. I'll ensure my security knows you're not a threat. You can walk away, go back to your normal life, and never think about the strange man and his daughter again. Bella's face fell. She'd been sitting beside her father, listening quietly, hope building in her eyes with each passing minute. Now that hope crumbled. Dante continued, his dark eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. You could stay. Have dinner with us. Get to know Bella properly. In a safe environment where she doesn't have to hide. I can't promise normal. My life will never be normal. But I can promise that if you choose to be part of Bella's life, I will ensure you're protected. That you're safe. Why? I breathed. You just met me. You thought I was kidnapping your daughter an hour ago. Because Bella hasn't smiled like she's smiling right now in 6 months. Because you stood up to armed security for a child you'd just met. Because you asked her about Greek mythology instead of interrogating her about her father. He leaned forward. Because maybe you're what we've both been missing, someone who sees Bella as just a little girl who loves books. Not as my daughter. Not as someone to be protected or pitied or feared. Just Bella. I looked at this child who'd stumbled into my life like a force of nature, who'd somehow seen past my lonely existence to recognize someone safe, someone kind. I looked at her father, dangerous and powerful, but also clearly devoted to giving his daughter some semblance of happiness. And I made my second choice of the day equally reckless, equally life-altering. I'd like that. Dinner sounds nice. Bella's face lit up like I'd just given her the world. That dinner led to another, and another. At first, it was just about Bella. I tutored her, took her to museums on weekends, gave her those precious hours of normalcy she craved. Dante was always nearby, always protected, but he gave us space. Let me be the normal presence in her life that he couldn't provide. But somewhere between month 2 and month 3, things shifted. I noticed the way Dante watched me with Bella. Not suspicious anymore, but grateful. Warm. I noticed how he asked about my day, remembered details from previous conversations, slowly opened up about his own life beyond the carefully curated image. I noticed how safe I felt around him, despite knowing exactly who he was and what he was capable of. And I definitely noticed when those dark eyes started looking at me like I was more than just Bella's tutor. I need to tell you something, he said one evening after Bella had gone to bed. We were in his Brooklyn brownstone. I'd been spending more evenings there, helping Bella with homework, staying for dinner. I'm falling in love with you, Naomi. I've been fighting it because this life, this world I'm part of, it's not fair to pull you into it. But I can't pretend anymore. My heart stopped. Dante, you don't have to feel the same way. You don't have to say anything right now. But I needed you to know. Because if you want to walk away, you should do it now. Before this goes any further. Before I fall so completely that losing you would destroy me. And if I don't want to walk away, the words came out breathless. If I've been falling for you too, if I lie awake at night thinking about you, about this family you're offering me, about building a life that's chaotic and dangerous but also full of love, his expression transformed hope and desire in something deeper, more profound. Then, I'm going to kiss you. And then I'm going to spend every day of the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing us. He kept that promise. 2 years later, I became Mrs. Russo in a small ceremony surrounded by the family that had adopted me as completely as I'd adopted them. Bella was my flower girl, beaming with joy at officially getting the mother she'd been calling Mama Naomi for months. 3 years after that, we added Leo to our family, a adoption that took months of paperwork, but brought a sad-eyed 5-year-old into our home who desperately needed love and stability. Bella immediately took to being a big sister with the same intensity she brought to everything. And 6 years after that Tuesday in the coffee shop, Maria came into our lives, another adoption, another child who needed a family. Dante slowly pulled back from the dangerous aspects of his business, using his power and connections to transition into legitimate enterprises. It wasn't easy. There were threats, confrontations, moments when I wondered if we'd survive. But he did it for Bella, for our family, for the chance at a normal life he'd never imagined possible. I stopped teaching at the public school and opened a small private tutoring center, working with children who needed extra support. Bella helped sometimes, passing on the gift of patience and kindness that had been given to her that day in the coffee shop. The years blurred together in the beautiful chaos of family life, homework and dance recitals and birthday parties, graduations and first dates and college applications. Bella grew into a brilliant young woman studying psychology, determined to help other children who grew up in difficult circumstances. Leo became a talented musician, channeling his early trauma into hauntingly beautiful compositions. Maria developed a passion for advocacy and justice, following in her father's footsteps, but using her voice for good. 20 years after that Tuesday afternoon, Dante and I sat in our backyard, watching our granddaughter Bella's daughter Sophia play in the garden. At 52 and 56, we'd built something neither of us had believed possible: a normal, loving family. "Do you ever think about it?" Dante asked, pulling me close. "What your life would have been if Bella hadn't sat at your table that day?" Sometimes, I'd probably still be teaching, living alone in that Queen's apartment, going through the motions of a safe, predictable life. I squeezed his hand. I'd be fine, but I wouldn't have you, the kids, the grandchildren, this whole beautiful, chaotic family we've built. I'd have missed out on everything that matters. One moment of kindness from a stranger changed the trajectory of our entire lives, he murmured. "Not just kindness," I said softly. "Recognition." I saw a scared child and remembered what it felt like to be alone and afraid. And you saw someone who cared about your daughter more than their own safety. I fell in love with your bravery before I even knew your real name. His dark eyes were soft with memory. Watching you claim to be Bella's aunt, so confident, so protective of a stranger's child, I thought, this woman is either insane or incredible. "I prefer courageously stupid," I laughed. "Because let's be honest, lying to mob security was not my smartest moment. But it was your most important moment. The moment that brought you into our lives permanently." He kissed my temple. 20 years, Naomi. 20 years of marriage, of family, of building this life together, and I still fall more in love with you every day. Through the window, I could see Sophia planting flowers in the same garden where Bella had played as a child, where Leo had taken his first steps. The garden where we'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, where we'd had heart-to-heart talks and joyful family gatherings. "Can I sit here? I won't bother you." Those 7 words had changed 3 lives. A scared little girl, a lonely teacher, and a dangerous man trying to be a good father. Sometimes the biggest, most beautiful transformations start with the smallest acts of kindness, with choosing compassion over caution, with saying yes when every logical part of you says no. That Tuesday afternoon, I made a choice that was reckless and illogical and completely right. I chose to help a child who needed someone to see her, not as a responsibility or a danger, but just as a little girl who wanted to read her book in peace. And that choice gave me everything. A daughter who became my world. A man who became my partner in every sense of the word. A family that grew and changed and filled all the lonely spaces in my heart I hadn't even known existed. 20 years later, lying in bed beside the man who'd once terrified me and now completed me, I thought about that coffee shop, that moment, that choice. I knew within a week of meeting you that I wanted to marry you, Dante murmured in the darkness. But I waited years to propose, because I wanted to make sure you were really choosing this life, not just feeling trapped by circumstances. I chose it the moment I lied to Marco about being Bella's aunt, I whispered back. Everything after that was just me committing deeper to a choice I'd already made. I've never regretted it. Not once. Good. Because I couldn't have survived losing you. You and Bella are the reason I'm still human. The reason I chose family over power. His arms tightened around me. You're the reason I have anything worth living for beyond money and influence. We're all reasons for each other, I said softly. That's what family is. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. Somewhere, other families were building their own stories, their own connections. But here, in this brownstone in Brooklyn, we had everything that mattered. Love, family, and a story that began with a simple question from a scared 7-year-old. Can I sit here? I won't bother you. Of course you can stay. One question. One answer. 20 years of love and family and belonging. The best decision I'd ever made was saying yes to a child who needed kindness. The best gift I'd ever received was the family that came from that choice. And I'd make the same choice again, every single time, because sometimes the most extraordinary destinies begin with an ordinary moment of human compassion. Sometimes, the family you need finds you in the most unexpected places. And sometimes, a complete stranger's courage to care is the only thing standing between a child and complete loneliness. This was my story. This was how love found me. And it all started with a little girl, a coffee shop, and the choice to say yes when it mattered most.